If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review for you guys. This weekend, huge weekend for Thrash fans. Yesterday I talked about the new Metallica album, and today I'm talking about another Thrash great and another pioneer of Thrash from New Jersey, Overkill with Scorched. This is their 20th studio album, definitely the most consistent thrash band to ever live. And I am so excited to talk about this. Now, funny enough, fun fact, the night I'm recording this review was the day before release, and I did this review before I did the Metallica review. So, there you go. Just a little editor's note for you. But yeah, Scorched. First Overkill album in 4 years. I think this may have been the longest gap between releases for Overkill. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain this is the longest gap we've had between Overkill albums. But I digress. I was a pretty big fan of their last one, Wings of War, when it came out in 2019. I believe I did a review for that, too. So I was definitely looking forward to this because I'm a pretty big fan of Overkill. They were definitely, in my opinion, out of the early first wave thrash bands between 1981 and 1985, definitely, in my opinion, the most underrated, especially here in the States. Why? I don't know, because they deserve just as much praise as bands in the Big Four or even like Exodus and Testament and so on and so forth. But here we are with Scorch, so it's 10 tracks, over 51 minutes, so it's a little bit long, but if there is one thing this album does not lose, is energy. Like, holy shit. Most of these songs are just energetic, fun, catchy, and just thrash to the bone. Kicking things off with the title track, which was the longest track of the album, at a little over 6 minutes, so kinda similar to Metallica with 72 Seasons, starting with the title track, which was one of the longer, if not the longest track of the album. So it's like bold moves on both bands to open their albums with their longest tracks. But Scorched, the title track begins with this like cool opening lead that almost kind of had a bit of a power metal vibe, which was a little weird because it felt a little more epic and a little more heroic, before it just gets into this killer riff followed by a D beat, and then you just get classic Overkill riffage. Well, at times it does make me think of Metallica a little bit. There were moments all throughout this album that made me think of Metallica and Megadeth and a couple of other bands. But if there is another thing that's added on here more than, I would say, Wings of War, is great usage of the breakdown. Like in the title track, you get this really cool breakdown to kind of just kind of like make you want to punch a wall for being pissed off. And then you get into Going Home, which starts with this like cool guitar progression, but it has more atmosphere, as this was more of like a build up to what was going to come, and kind of builds to a nice groove, but then punches you right away with those thrashy beats. After all, Jason Bittner is just everywhere on this album in terms of his drumming. And this track kind of has like cool little guitar moments that made me think of like recent Testament albums a little bit. And then you get into The Surgeon, which starts with a vicious bass line. Now, if there's another thing that's fucking amazing on here, the bass. Dee Verney, I would say, is one of the best thrash metal bassists out there. Yeah, he plays with a pick, but my god, can he just fly all over that fucking bass. After all, Bass Brothers, even though I suck on bass. But I digress. But yeah, Surgeon, immediately, vicious bass line, and then the guitars and the drums follow, and then into more thrashy brutality almost. And this is actually one of the songs that has one of the more memorable choruses. Like, there are great choruses all throughout the album, but here on The Surgeon, it was a little more memorable for me. And then even the bridge, the way it builds up to the breakdown, made me think of, like, Years of Decay era Overkill. Kind of, like, made me think of Time to Kill a little bit. And then you get into Twist of the Wick, which has a little bit more of a sinister tone to it. Like, it starts off with a sinister guitar melody that kind of makes you think shit's about to go down, and the shit has hit the fan with some badassery when it just comes in with the guitars. More of those Testament vibes I kind of get, I pick and choose here and there. And just out of nowhere, a quick blast beat. Like Jason Bittner's showing that, hey, I can blast. Maybe not for as long as some of the best blasters in the world, but hey, I can do blast beats. And he did a quick fire blast beat, which was really, really cool. And then cool chugging breakdown. Like, this is definitely one of those breakdowns that focuses more on chugs than anything else. But it does have an eerie atmosphere over top with, like, this dark guitar melody. And then you get into Wicked Place, where it just gets off to this, like, starts off with this, like, marching pace, almost like a military march. And then it turns into, like, a sweet triplet swing that made me think of Celtic Frost, Iron Maiden, and most especially Black Sabbath. And that swing is felt all throughout this song, and it's so catchy. Like, I love hearing those cool triplet bluesy swings in metal. After all, it pioneered by Black Sabbath, so it's gonna have to be in a lot of different kinds of bands that can do it pretty well. Even gets a little bit doomy in the chorus, kind of like slower Sabbath. But then you get an Iron Maiden gallop, which Overkill does the Iron Maiden gallops pretty well whenever they do appear, and ends with, like, cool symphonic strings to kind of, like, set things to a close with the song. And then, now I want to talk about Won't Be Coming Back, because I remember on Wings of War, if I remember right, I think it was the song Distortion, where the beginning of it made me think of the song, I want to say it was Little Julie by Sarcophago. It starts off almost the same as that Sarcophago song. I'm telling you, I said it in that Wings of War review, and I'll tell you again. Do like an A and B, put on the beginning of Sarcophago, Little Julie, and then the beginning of Overkill, Distortion. Tell me if I'm wrong if you think there is no similarities there. Here, with Won't Be Coming Back, it begins like so much like Dio Holy Diver, and it totally caught me off guard, but it was awesome. And then the song kind of feels a little more like a Megadeth song, like the way the riffs are going, the progressions. It just felt like I was listening to Megadeth. Not that it's a bad thing, because I absolutely love Megadeth. But there's even some Judas Priest nods on here, especially in the bridge when you get, like, harmonized riffage, which was pretty cool. Then we get into the song Fever, and this is definitely one of the weirder tracks of the album. Starts off almost psychedelic and a little bit like the Old West, a little bit inspired with the clean guitars, even some bongos, and the bass kind of was a little trippy and a little bit Western inspired. But then when the distortion comes in, it's a heavy song when it comes to the riffs, but it's mostly groove oriented, like triplet grooves. And even ends with a little D-beat stomp. Now, lyrically, this is the first of, like, 2 songs that have kind of, like, strange lyrical ideas, where it's humorous, but in different ways. Like, here on Fever, it's kind of making fun of political crap. Like, I think this song definitely is them being kind of, I guess I would say, it's kind of like their version of, like, a COVID song, where they just were like, people need to calm the fuck down about COVID and all this stuff. But the song itself, it was weird. Not that it was bad, it was just, like, the way it starts was odd, and then it was mostly like a groove-oriented song. But then we get right back into the thrash with Harder They Fall, which probably the catchiest chorus of the entire album. harder they come, the harder they fall. I mean, that's a pretty fun chorus. And this song kind of has some Exodus vibes. Like, I know Exodus and Overkill often get compared quite a bit, and this is an example of it, and it's really, really cool. And it even gets a little bit punky in the bridge, just slightly. But then you get to maybe my favorite lead of the entire album. Like, the lead work all throughout is all about shred, just like thrash metal does. It's all about shred and just showcasing, like, I'm going mad on the guitar without doing squealy dive bombs, but just doing, like, cool shredding parts. Here, there's, like, a good balance of shred, even some taps, and melody. Pretty well mashed together. Then you get to Know Her Name, which gives me Metallica vibes right out of the gate with the guitars. And I love the little hammer-on pull-offs on the guitars during the chorus. Bass line out of nowhere in the bridge, and the bass was the star of the bridge, let's just say that. And then we get to the final track, Bag o' Bones, which, this is another one of those humorous tracks, but this one's more fun humor. Some people might think this is cheesy and corny. Who the hell cares? It's fun. Isn't that what you're supposed to be listening to music for? Is fun in some way? Yeah, lyrics goofy, but who gives a damn? The song itself, kinda, again, more Megadeth vibes throughout, but cool riffage in the bridge with, like, little pick scrapes that you get here. But the lead on this track kind of follows more of a mood, kind of going along with the more fun tone of the song. Like, it's a fun lead that doesn't have a lot of shredding going on, but it's got more melody on top. And that's how we end this thing. So, as far as the production has some grit to it. Like, it was mixed by both Chris Clancy and the legendary Colin Richardson. Don't know who actually produced it. I think the band produced it themselves. It has some grit. Like, it doesn't sound too clean or anything like that. It has some dirtiness to the production, but the mix, perfect mix. Like, you could hear everything. It's properly leveled. The bass is audible, and it has a lot of moments of shine. After all, like I said, Dee Dee's a hell of a player. The guitars, filled with punch and crunch. The drums, Jason Bittner's drum work is impeccable on here. And then, of course, Bobby Blitz's vocals still sound great. I don't care what anybody says. Bobby Blitz is an amazing thrash vocalist, and he sounds the exact same as he did back in the 80s. And it's incredible after all the crap he's been through in his life. So as far as stuff I didn't like, pretty much like the couple of goofy tracks like Bag o' Bones. Yeah, maybe doesn't quite fit with the overall aggression of this album. And then Fever was just a little weird and kind of odd. Doesn't quite fit. But overall, this is a hell of an album. I think I like this a little more than Wings of War. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. It's definitely pushing towards 9.5. But yeah, this is an awesome album. Like, Overkill for their 20th album, I think they stepped up to the plate, the ball was thrown, and they knocked it out of the park. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for Scorched by Overkill. But of course, that's just my opinion. What did you guys think of Scorched by Overkill? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, you people out there, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.